Hi, this is Simon McDad here. I'm going to do part 2 of the series that I'm doing on the divorce experience that I had with my narcissistic ex-wife. Again, her flavor of narcissism was a malignant narcissist. So her way of getting supply was through arguing, baiting, and basically, her supply was getting a sense of power and control by manipulating other people through confrontation. Creating negative situations. So as I said in the last video, she was going out on these dates and stuff. It was obvious at the time, but I didn't have any proof. And I'm one of those people where I don't make accusations. I present proof. And until I have that, I'm going to keep my mouth shut and my eyes open. So I waited, and sure enough, there was an incident where she had accidentally left her phone on open to a chat with multiple people on the coffee table, right in the middle of the living room. Thank God I found it and not the kids. So I found it, saw exactly what was happening. That was the proof that I needed. And from there, at the time, ironically enough, she had recommended that we go to couples counseling. Again, not because she had any intention of changing or actually addressing what was going on in the marriage, but to placate me. So that and also to be able to say, oh, I asked that we go to couples counseling. Obviously, I love you. Obviously, I want things to work. So I worked with the therapist, one-on-one, and told her what the situation was. And the therapist, understood, kind of what was going on with my wife, with kind of her regression, and her, being this narcissistic, very confrontational person now. And so we decided that the best way to handle it was to, have one of our scheduled couple sessions. And because it was a safe environment, it was, relatively public, meaning it wasn't just me and my wife. The therapist was there, but it was also out of the home. It was a, neutral ground, if you will. And there were no kids, so they didn't have to be impacted by anything, and no one else around to interrupt the, process, conversation, the session. So we were both in the session, and, we did our little check-in. And then I confronted, my wife at the time, and she, as you can imagine, exploded like an atom bomb. She immediately, and I mean immediately, flipped the script and and tried to make the issue of discussion that I had invaded her privacy. It wasn't about the affairs that she was having. It wasn't about the impact on me. It wasn't on the impact on the marriage. It wasn't on the impact of the family as a whole. It was, from her perspective, it was 100% talking about, me, her perception of me invading her privacy. Even though, as I said, it was, the phone was left, face up, no lock screen, chat up, middle of the living room on the coffee table. I walk by and I see it. But still, she, my wife at the time was just deadlocked on that, like a bulldog with its teeth, sunk in. And once me and the therapist, I was speaking, but the therapist was trying to direct my wife at the time back to the actual issue, she just got up and left. My wife at the time just literally grabbed her stuff and basically went running out of the therapist's office without closing the door or anything, just dead, making just bolting out straight for the parking lot, straight to her car to speed away. And I was just in shock. I mean, at that point, I was like, okay, obviously I know what I need to do next, where things are going. And so, the realization that divorce was on the table was immediately in my mind. So after she was caught, red-handed, so to speak, it was interesting because, I had mentioned like previously with the video on Narcissist rarely, if ever, ending relationships, because why would they? It's free supply. I've got this person I've led on for months and months, years and years. Why would I end it? I can just keep treating them like garbage and getting a little bit of supply every day or, every week. So it was the same thing with my wife at the time, where she, went into this strange, behavior where she would tell all of her friends, all of our mutual friends, family members, that she was getting a divorce. Okay. But here's the thing. She never went to the courthouse. She never got papers. She never filled them out. She never filed them. She made zero effort at getting a divorce. And, it was very strange at the time, but obviously, the situation was the same with her that I just described, where, she's in this situation where she's like, okay, I've got a nice house in the suburbs. I've got a husband with a good job. I've got health insurance. I've got security. I've got all of that. And in addition, I've got all these like Tinder dates and partying and stuff like that. She literally has her cake and is able to eat it too. So why in the heck would she end that? And so it was still this weird exercise of her announcing to the world that she was getting a divorce, but not actually doing something. It was strictly for appearances. And again, something that I had seen it was a situation where she wanted everyone to think that the divorce was her idea, that she was the one who, was taking the initiative. And I'd heard this, with other people with like, say, relationships. And it's like, okay, well, what happens when you break up with a narcissist? And I saw this firsthand with my, ex-girlfriend, the covert narcissist. I would end things, be like, this isn't working for me. It's not fun. It's not fulfilling. I'm done. And she would immediately turn around and start telling everyone who would listen that she ended the relationship with me. And, at the time and even now, I'm like, I don't care. It's like, tell everyone you want whatever you want. As long as I'm out, I'm happy. And I feel like my my ex-wife at the time was playing that game. So at the time, I was still unaware of what narcissism was and what the patterns and behaviors were. So all the tricks were catching me off guard. So she came to me and said, okay, I want to do a, trial separation, or what's sometimes called a healing separation, 6 months apart, no contact the first month. Second month, we meet, once every 2 weeks. Third month, we meet every week. Fourth month, we meet twice a week, et cetera, so that by the end of the 6th month, we're seeing each other almost every day, and then we resume, living together. And at the time, I'm like, okay, I want to save the marriage, not as much for me, but for the kids. That's just how I'm wired. And so I'm like, okay. So I go and I get this apartment in addition to the house. And, the market's brutal. So I won't mention the price, but it was rough. And in addition to that, she requested, meaning demanded, that she have her own bedroom in the apartment with a lock on it. So even through this, she had to have the secrecy and the deception. And again, that is something I saw with my covert narcissist too. My covert narcissist used to brag about how much security she had on her phone and her computer, and that even a master world-class hacker would find it nearly impossible to get into her computer and see what was on it. And it's like, who the hell tells their partner that? It's like, what are you hiding? Are you hiding crime scene photos or something? Plans to rob a bank? I mean, that's insane. But anyways, back to my, to the wife. So, I was clueless, naive, optimistic, got the apartment, and very quickly realized that I'd been completely duped. It was not about ever reconciling or the two of us working on ourselves and healing, blah, blah, blah. It was her party apartment. It was a way for her to party, do drugs, do her Tinder dates without having to worry about going to a stranger's house or having to hide, stuff from the children or her husband or anything like that. It was just, the party house for a 40-year-old who thought she was 19 again. So that was, going on. And through this process, I do want to add that the Hoover, almost hoovering, breadcrumbing was going on to where, we would have our 3-hour arguments that would go nowhere. She'd always be stonewalling me, causing conflict where there didn't need to be. And then she would come by with like a present. And she would say, oh, this brand new Bluetooth speaker, I got it for you so that you can listen to music here in the apartment. Oh, this blender here? Yeah, I've got this blender because I know you like to make your shakes every morning. That's your favorite, way to start the day. So I got it for you. And, just here and there, she would do things like this. And even at the time, I was like, okay, this isn't sincere. It's to keep me off balance, to make me think that there's a range of emotion or a range of how she feels about me, when it was very obvious that she basically just, at that point, hated my guts, as if I did something. And so, reading the writing on the wall, I filled out, went to the courthouse, got the paperwork. I think I filled it out at the courthouse, filed. It's, the state I live in, it has a built-in at least 6-month period before you actually have like the hearing for the divorce to be finalized. So, there was time going on, lots of stonewalling, lots of arguing. And a good example of this is that I had to, once the time came, serve her with the divorce papers. So I, called her up and I said, look, you already know I filed for divorce. I have the papers, and as part of the legal process, you need to be served the papers. Look, we've been together for almost 20 years. I don't want to make a big deal out of this. I don't want to embarrass you at your work or anything like that. So if you just give me a time and a place, I will have the service serve you papers then, so it can be done in private. So here, another great example of like where, you go out of your way to try to be nice to the narcissist. You already know where that goes. So she gave me a date, a time. Service goes by. Knock, nothing. Ring the doorbell, nothing. Wait 15 minutes, nothing. Wait an hour, nothing. They call me. I call, my ex, my wife at the time, and she says, "Oh, yeah, work called me in." And I was like, "Well, you could have told me. I could have, because I had said, like, okay, thank you for this, giving me this time, this date. I'll have you served at that time." And she was just like, just blowing me off. And so I said, "Look, just give me another date, another time. Let's try this again." And she did, and she wasn't there the second time either. So at that point, I was just like, okay, I'm running out of options because they're going to start charging me, additional fees. So I had her served at her work during business hours in front of, clients, in front of coworkers. And as you can imagine, dealing with a narcissist, especially a malignant narcissist, she blew up. She was furious that I did that, and was like, "I can't believe you did, you embarrassed me in front of my coworkers, and you embarrassed me. I was working on patients, and they came in, and they were trying to serve me papers." And it's just like, I gave you 2 chances to do this in private, and you messed it up. But again, it's like, she didn't even hear that. It was not, it was unimportant to her argument. So, I don't know if I can go into specifics with stonewalling, but, just basically everything at that point. So the experience of the separation and the divorce was incredibly painful. I would say, okay, look, I'm working Monday and Tuesday. I'm free Wednesday. We need to meet to go over custody. And she would say, "No, I need to meet you on Tuesday." And it's like, okay, I just said I can't. I have work. And she's like, "Well, you need to get that time off." Fine. So I get the time off. And this happened a couple of times to where I noticed the pattern. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to test this. And so I was free Monday, but I had to work Tuesday and Wednesday. And so I told her, I said, "Look, I'm free Tuesday and Wednesday, but my Monday is, packed. I have no time on my calendar free on Monday." And she said, "Oh, well, I need to meet you on Monday. I need to meet you on Monday at 10 a.m. So you need to get that time off." And I was like, "Oh my, okay, I'll do it." It's like, oh my God, it became this game that I could play with her. Like, if I told her a day would not work for me, that would always be the day that she said she had to meet with me. And so I just want to give that out. Like, I would say expect that with a narcissist. They just thrive on this weird, immature type of conflict. And again, it's not about them winning. It is about you losing. And they have infinite energy, infinite time to play that game with you. So my recommendation is to, for anyone going into a separation or a divorce, learn how to gray rock, and practice it, because I don't think there's any other way to deal with it. You just have to say the bare minimum, no feelings, no thoughts, no opinions, just, the lawyer wants us to be here at this time, period. And I would even say, like, try to avoid asking questions. With my ex-wife, asking a question was opening the door to word salad and going off topic and just going nowhere. And so, by the end, I learned, like, okay, I literally cannot ask her any questions. I just simply need to make a decision and tell her and be like, okay, the lawyer says you need to be here and stuff. And so, that would be my recommendation for getting through that part, is just, learn how to, gray rock. And then I'm trying to think what other thing that I'd recommend is just that her behavior was very bizarre. As I had said, like we met once for discussing custody of the children. What she proposed was so abhorrent, it made my jaw drop. I was in complete shock. And, no sane person would say what she did. And sometimes there were, things that she would say or things that she would do through that process that it made me almost wonder if she was having like these mini psychotic breaks. And I don't know if that's specific to her or if that's a trait of narcissism that people just don't talk about very often. Because as I said, I've experienced that too with my covert narcissist. I was with her for 4 years, but during those 4 years, there were 2 times where she had what would be described as psychotic breaks, where she was acting and saying things based upon what was going on in her head and not what was going on in reality. So, the 6 months went on. She, the ex-wife continued to be combative, nearly impossible to have any type of productive discussion. So by the end, it was just, very much, going through lawyers, one sentence communication, that type of stuff. So, hopefully this has been helpful for those who are either in the process of a separation or divorce with a narcissist or considering that. And in the next video, I'll do one on the actual, divorce hearing itself and kind of the aftermath. So.